Good evening, everybody. We are again back with the lecture series that we have been doing for the current affairs. I hope this is being helpful to you. And many of you have asked many queries. I have tried to respond to them in the comment section, of course. If there's some query I would like to take, I would take in these lectures, and that will be very helpful. I would ensure that addition that we do here gets added into that lecture. Okay, so again we are back with the lectures on current affairs for the week, the last week of July, and the prelims exams are very close. So I believe that you are already prepared with your course material and the current affairs, of course. In any case, you have doubts regarding the preparation of prelims or mains or essay writing or any kind of that kind of preparation, you can ask your queries in the comment section. Fine. So the very first important topic that we have taken today is SMILE scheme. Okay, SMILE scheme is about social security related benefits. Okay, so SMILE scheme is related to the comprehensive rehabilitation of the people who are engaged in begging. Okay, now begging has not been defined in the laws. Okay, there is no central law on begging, because begging as such is not defined under the 7th schedule also, कि begging पे laws बनाने की power किसकी है. ठीक है, तो ना सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के लिए डिफाइंड है ना स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स के लिए डिफाइंड है. फाइन, बट देयर वन थिंग इज कि बेगिंग पे लॉज जो है वो बनाते हैं स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स अंडर स्पेशल एंट्री अंडर द स्टेट लिस्ट. ओके, बट लॉज बनाना एक चीज है, स्कीम्स निकालना दूसरी चीज है. लॉ इज अ स्टैट्यूट, इट इज हैविंग द पावर ऑफ अ लीगल बैकिंग. ठीक है, अ स्कीम is a welfare oriented mechanism to provide some benefit to people. Therefore, any topic, any issue that is in the state list, the center can also issue schemes for that. Okay, but the prime prerogative of the issuing or starting some scheme regarding the welfare of any topic that is defined in the state list lies with the state government. Okay, the prime prerogative is of state government, but that does not restrict central government from starting any scheme in the very same sector. Of course, it will be an encroachment into the federal domain, okay, of the states, but states will also benefit from it. Okay, that is why states mostly do not oppose such welfare oriented schemes that are into the domain of the state but started by the central government. But what states want is that such scheme should be started by the state governments, and if center wants, center could help through funding. Instead of starting a scheme on itself, the state should help through funding. Okay, so this is one such scheme where the power of making laws lies with the state governments, but this scheme is a central sector scheme. Okay, central sector scheme and centrally sponsored scheme are two kind of schemes. I have discussed time and again about both of them. Central sector scheme is one scheme which is being run by the central government and the funding is completely by central government. The implementation of the scheme or the administration of the scheme, okay, because the states have the power of administration and executive authority at the lowest level of the governance. Okay. So in that case, the governance or the administration of that scheme may lie with the local units or the state government, or as the state central government directs. But the funding is completely done by central government. That is the very important aspect of a central sector scheme. The funding is done by central government. It can be implemented by both central government or state government or the local constituent units. Understood? Now, second important thing is first one is central sector scheme. The second one is centrally sponsored scheme. Now, centrally sponsored schemes are those schemes under which there is a sharing of the funds. Okay, sharing means both state governments and central governments are sharing fund into a certain ratio. ठीक है? For the ratio is for the states lying in the northeastern region or the states lying in the difficult terrain or in the Himalayan region, it is 90:10. मतलब 90% of the funding will be provided by the center, 10% of the funding will be provided by the states. States कौन सी? जो कि states northeastern states हैं या तो Himalayan region की states हैं, like हिमाचल प्रदेश, okay, और J&K is a union territory now. Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, okay, these. Uttarakhand, fine. The second important thing is, what about the other states? For other states, the ratio of funding is 60:40. 60% will be provided by the central government and 40% will be provided by the state governments. That is the kind of fund sharing between central government and state government into the schemes which are centrally sponsored or central sector. So this one is a central sector scheme. Now whenever we are reading the schemes, okay, so I have already told this, but I will try to repeat, because it is one very important thing. Whenever we are discussing schemes, okay, so what do we need to look for? Schemes, okay, there will be 1,000 things about the schemes, but we have to prepare our in such a manner so that we will minimize the content and maximize the marks, because the syllabus is so vast, everything cannot be covered, right? And even if you covered everything, you cannot remember everything. So we need to look smartly, okay, we need to not work hard, okay, we of course need to work hard, but that should also be smarter. So whenever we are looking for schemes, we will be looking for 2, 3, 4 main things, and that will cover the all scheme. You need to understand as to what the scheme does, okay, but for prelims point of view, it is very important that you need to focus on these 4 points that we are going to discuss right now. The first one is ministry, okay, which ministry? The second one is, it is a central government scheme, central sector, okay, the one we discussed right now, or centrally sponsored. ठीक है? Second thing ये. The third thing we need to focus about is कि what is the aim of the scheme or what is the target of the scheme, like integrated child development scheme. ठीक है? अब ICDS या ऐसी scheme like any the scheme which is focused on like women, तो ठीक है, तो उसका target कौन है? Women है. Any stand-up scheme is a entrepreneurship scheme for development of entrepreneurship amongst the weaker section like SC, ST and women. तो इसका जो target है, that you should always know कि which kind of population does the scheme target. ठीक है? तो the target population, okay, there will always be a target population. No scheme is all encompassing except for Aadhaar, okay. Now Aadhaar is not a scheme, it is a law, okay. So law is of course all encompassing, okay. Fourth important thing that we need to look, the first one is ministry, the second one is it a central sector scheme or centrally sponsored scheme, the third one is target population, the fourth one is what is the funding. अब फंडिंग में यू नीड नॉट नेसेसरली लुक कि कितने बजटरी लेआउट कितना है, कि लाइक 40,000 करोड़ की स्कीम है, दैट इज नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज दैट इज अ वेरी फैक्चुअल डेटा. आप कितनी स्कीम्स के बारे में ऐसी चीजें याद कर सकते हो, इट इज गुड अगर आपको याद है, बट आई वुड नॉट रिकमेंड इट. व्हाट यू कैन डू एक्चुअली इज कि यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द फंडिंग पैटर्न, नॉट अबाउट दिस वन. ठीक है, कि यहाँ पे तो हमने फंडिंग पैटर्न देख लिया कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के बीच का फंडिंग पैटर्न क्या है, अगर वो सेंट्रल सेक्टर या सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम है. अगर कोई स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम है तो दैट विल बी कंप्लीटली फंडेड बाय स्टेट गवर्नमेंट इटसेल्फ. ओके, व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू लुक फॉर हियर इज कि इज द स्कीम प्रोवाइडिंग एनी काइंड ऑफ क्रेडिट टू द पीपल. ओके, इज द स्कीम प्रोवाइडिंग एनी काइंड ऑफ इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन, व्हाट द स्कीम इज ट्राइंग टू डू. ओके, like Aadhaar, like वन ऑफ द स्कीम इज मिड डे मील स्कीम. मिड डे मील स्कीम में कोई फंडिंग है? नो. मिड डे मील, व्हाट मिड डे मील स्कीम डज इज प्रोवाइड्स फूड. ओके, दैट इज फंडिंग और बेनिफिट. व्हाट बेनिफिट डज द स्कीम इंटेंड? अब कोई स्कीम हो सकती है जहां पे हम लोगों को मनी प्रोवाइड कर रहे हो, राइट? लाइक पीएम किसान स्कीम, जहां पे 6,000 रुपीज एनुअली प्रोवाइड किए जाएंगे फार्मर्स को इन द इंस्टॉलमेंट्स ऑफ 2,000 ईच, 3 इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में. तो यहाँ पे फंडिंग प्रोवाइड की जा रही है. लाइक आवास योजना. आवास योजना में गवर्नमेंट प्रोवाइड्स इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन ऑन सम क्रेडिट. ओके, so that is a benefit of the scheme. That is the benefit, the intended benefit किस फॉर्म में प्रोवाइड हो रहा है, ठीक है? That is what you have to look for. फंडिंग है, फूड है, इंटरेस्ट सबवेंशन है, लोन है. ओके, what is the intended benefit of the scheme? These are the points that we are going to look through whenever we are going to look into any scheme. Okay, so this I think you should note it down. Now back to the lecture. Why news? Because Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Now the very first important thing, कि which ministry it belongs to. It is under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Why? It is a scheme that is being run by the central government. It is not being run by any state government. Okay, the funding that is being provided in the scheme is by state government. That is why we are calling it the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Otherwise, a very important thing that I have already told in one of my class, कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट में मिनिस्ट्री होती है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में डिपार्टमेंट्स होते हैं, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में मिनिस्ट्री नहीं होती. ओके, तो आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड. तो वेरी फर्स्ट एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज इट इज बीइंग रन बाय मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस एंड एम्पावरमेंट. हैज फॉर्मुलेटेड अ स्कीम कॉल्ड स्माइल, सपोर्ट फॉर marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise. ठीक है, the first one is livelihood, the second one is enterprise. livelihood का मतलब to provide them with life, like food, basic necessities of livelihood, to make them able to live. ठीक है, because people who are begging do not have the basic means to live. Okay, the second one is enterprise. When they are able to live, okay, when they are able to sustain themselves, make them earn something on their own. ठीक है, by inculcating into them some skills like vocational skills. ठीक है, तो ये स्कीम का आउटलाइन ये है कि जो बेगर्स स्ट्रीट्स में घूमते रहते हैं, ट्रेन्स में हैं, उन लोगों को पहले तो लिवलीहुड सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड करो in form of food, shelter. The second thing is provide them with vocational training. ठीक है, of course if a person who is aged more than like 30, 40, 50, they will find it hard to learn some enterprising skill. Okay, but people who are like under the ages in which they can learn some skill, and where they can use their skills to earn something for them, तो उन लोगों को enterprising skills provide करना. So it has two components. The first one livelihood support, the second one is provision of enterprising skills. ठीक है, now it includes a sub scheme, that is central sector scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of person engaged in begging. इसका सब स्कीम क्या है? सब स्कीम मतलब a component of this scheme is central sector scheme. Okay, now second very important thing is central sector scheme. What is a central sector scheme? A central sector scheme is a scheme in which the funding is completely provided by the central government. Okay, it can be run by the state government or the constituent units or the NGOs. Okay, but the funding is provided completely by the central government. That is why it is called a central sector scheme. Now it includes a sub scheme, central sector scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation. Comprehensive rehabilitation. Rehabilitation means to pull the people out of the begging, okay, to provide them livelihood support and make them enterprising in such a way that they can earn a life for themselves. Understood? So it includes sub scheme, persons engaged in begging. Okay, now what is the status of begging in India? Census of 2011, okay, census is conducted every 10 years. After every 10 years, the next census report is scheduled to be like released in 2021. Let's see when it comes. But because of the COVID, the enumeration has not been made possible, है ना? COVID की वजह से the people who are engaged in census have not been able to enumerate people. Head count नहीं हो पाया है, so that is why it might get delayed. Let's see what comes out. Now, status for begging in India shows that total number of beggars are around 4,13,670, out of which 53.58% are male and 46.42% are female. ठीक है? So this is a very important data that you can remember. Of course, for mains, ठीक है? Social justice वाले पेपर में लिखने के लिए, ठीक है? Okay, states में West Bengal has the highest number of beggars. Second one is Uttar Pradesh and third one is Bihar. Okay, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. For union territories, it is Delhi and then Chandigarh. Highest number of beggars in Uttar union territories is belongs to Delhi and second number पे है Chandigarh. Okay, so this is some important data to give you perspective. Total number of beggars is around 4,13,670. The data that has been enumerated in the census. It might be a higher one, है ना? Or the states that have highest number of beggars is West Bengal. The second number Uttar Pradesh and then Bihar. Okay. Now status of begging in India. From the constitutional, legal point of view. That was statistical point of view. Now we are going to look into the legal point of view as to what is the role of the state, what is state doing. Okay. The first important thing is there is no central law on that, because begging is not a purview of central government. It is mentioned under the state 2 or list 2, that is state list. The list 1 is central list, list 2 is state list, list 3 is concurrent list. Okay, these three lists are mentioned in Schedule 7 of the Constitution of India. So, but there is a point, all the begging has not been mentioned in the Constitution of India, neither in its any schedule. Okay? Beggar is mentioned. Now, beggar is a different thing. Beggar has been mentioned in Article 23. Okay? So, beggar is different thing and begging is different thing. Okay, begging and beggar are different thing in the sense, beggar is a person who is employed without the payment of, without any payment or remuneration. That is called beggar. ठीक है? Begging का मतलब है कि seeking alms in public, seeking financial help in public, या seeking any help in public where by exposing your wound, by singing some song. Okay, these kind of things are called begging. That is classified as begging. But there is a difference between beggar and begging. And begging has not been mentioned in the Constitution of India. But begging, beggar is a forced labor without the payment. Okay, whereas begging is voluntary or forced. It can be forced also, but it is most of the time voluntary. Okay, but it is kind of seeking help in public, financial or otherwise, by exposing your wound, by singing or using such means. With that is trying to seek remuneration, trying to seek financial help without any labor. That is called begging. तो relief जो state list है, list 2 7 schedule में, वहाँ पे एक point mentioned है. It states relief to the disabled and unemployable comes under the purview of the state list. So states have read this. Okay. States have read this, relief of the disabled and unemployable. Such people can be assumed, who are both disabled and unemployable, can be assumed that they have been involved into begging. Okay. The person who is unemployable is not having any source of income, and the person who is disabled, he might not have any source of income, because of which he may become unemployable, and in that case people are forced into begging. ठीक है, because of course the limitations that the body has put upon them, or the limitations of because of the lack of social justice. ठीक है, तो provision for the relief, ठीक है, providing relief to such people comes under the state list. So making a law becomes the purview of the state, but vagrancy comes under the concurrent list. ठीक है, vagrancy is a different term now. ठीक है, that comes under the concurrent list. Begging is a criminal offense. ठीक है, तो सबसे important जो law है begging के regarding, that is Bombay Prevention of Begging Act 1959. So most of the states have formed their own laws on the basis of this law itself. ठीक है, most of the states have formed what, on the basis of this law, Bombay Prevention of Begging Act 1959. इस लॉ के बेसिस पे बाकी सारे स्टेट्स ने अपने बेगिंग लॉज बनाए हैं, एंड इट डिफाइंस बेगिंग एज अ क्रिमिनल ऑफेंस. ओके, earlier in 2018 Delhi High Court struck down the begging rules 1960 as unconstitutional. In 2018 Delhi High Court struck down a rule of Delhi government. ठीक है, that was the Delhi rules. The rules were formed under the Bombay Prevention of Begging Act 1959. ओके, तो ये रूल्स डिक्टेट करते थे कि बेगिंग इज अ क्रिमिनल ऑफेंस. दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट ने इस रूल को स्ट्रक डाउन कर दिया एंड सेड दैट इट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द स्टेट अंडर द DPSPs टू प्रोवाइड फॉर लिवलीहुड टू द पीपल, एंड अंडर आर्टिकल 21 इटसेल्फ द राइट टू लाइफ एंड लिबर्टी. ठीक है, तो यहाँ राइट टू लाइफ इज द राइट ऑफ द सिटीजन. if a person is not having the means to live, so he can demand from the state the right to life, the right to livelihood. The right to livelihood forms a part of the right to life. Okay, so under DPSPs also, right to principle of state policy also, right to livelihood is a DPSP also, and right to livelihood is a right, fundamental right under right to life also. ठीक है, now we can see as to what has the government done. In 2017-18 the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment again in 2017 and 18 released rupees 1 crore to National Backward Commission for, this is the commission which helps people who are economically, sociologically very backward. ठीक है, this commission is under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay, तो इस कमीशन को 1 crore rupees, rupees 1 crore were released to this commission in 2017-18 for the vocational training of beggars. ठीक है, तो ये वाली जो स्कीम है, ओके, फॉर वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग ऑफ बेगर्स, इट स्टार्टेड इन 2017-18 एज वेल. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे गाजियाबाद, ओके, गाजियाबाद, कोलकाता, ऐसे 7-8 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को फिगर आउट करके, और यहाँ पे जो बेगर्स बेगिंग कर रहे हैं उनको वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग दिया जाना चाहिए. इसके लिए एक पायलट स्कीम स्टार्ट की गई बाय मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस. ठीक है, एंड दे रिलीज रुपीज 1 crore फॉर दैट. एंड इन 2018-19 also Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment again released rupees 50 lakh for the same scheme. ठीक है, ये तो हो गया कि मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस एंड एम्पावरमेंट क्या करिए अंडर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. State governments have also started many schemes, like Odisha government has started a scheme for comprehensive rehabilitation of beggars, and they are providing vocational training to them to empower themselves to so that the beggars can earn a livelihood for themselves. Okay, now again Ministry of Women and Child Development is running a scheme called Integrated Child Protection Scheme. Integrated Child Protection Scheme में बहुत सारे किस्म के चिल्ड्रन आते हैं who are perceived to be under a need of protection. ठीक है, यहाँ पे ICPS में बहुत सारे, जैसे trafficked children, ठीक है, people who the children who are like who are brought from brothels, ठीक है, the children who have been trafficked, ठीक है, तो the children who have been working into mines, the children who have been working into like very hazardous conditions, तो such children are like rescued from there and brought under तो अब ऐसे rescued children के लिए कोई स्कीम होनी चाहिए. तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ विमेन एंड चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट इज रनिंग अ स्कीम कॉल्ड इंटीग्रेटेड चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन स्कीम which covers many kind of children and also the children who are engaged into begging. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे दो मिनिस्ट्रीज हैं. द फर्स्ट वन इज मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस, द सेकंड वन इज मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट, विमेन एंड चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट. बोथ आर रनिंग टू स्कीम्स. ठीक है, तो इस वाले ये वाली स्कीम इज नॉट डायरेक्टली फोकस्ड ऑन बेगिंग, ठीक है, बट इट ट्राइज टू एड्रेस द नीड्स ऑफ चिल्ड्रन who are employed into begging. Okay, now about the scheme. Smiles is support for marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise. इसका full form है Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It is a central sector scheme. It aims at comprehensive rehabilitation of persons engaged in begging. It will contain a sub scheme for, okay, now implementation कैसे होगा? See, I said that it is a central sector scheme. That does not mean the center itself is going to implement it. Okay, the center may design a scheme, design its implementation framework, but it can delegate the powers of implementation onto various entities like state government, like local government, ठीक है, urban bodies, local urban bodies, ठीक है, पंचायत, like NGOs, ठीक है. तो state government, central government is of course the nodal agency. मतलब central government is of course designing it, central government is of course funding it, but the implementation will lie with state governments, union territories, local urban bodies, voluntary organizations. ठीक है, ऐसे organizations जो कि children protection में काम के sector में काम कर रही हों. One such organization is बचपन बचाओ आंदोलन. ठीक है, बचपन बचाओ आंदोलन इज रन बाय कैलाश सत्यार्थी. ठीक है, वॉलंटरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की बात करें तो बचपन बचाओ आंदोलन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. बचपन बचाओ आंदोलन is being run by कैलाश सत्यार्थी. He received a Nobel Prize for the same. ठीक है, तो ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूशंस को इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पावर मिलेगा, बट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट फंडिंग प्रोवाइड करेगी. द फोकस ऑफ द स्कीम इज एक्सटेंसिवली ऑन रिहेबिलिटेशन, ओके, प्रोविजन ऑफ मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज, काउंसलिंग, बेसिक डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, एजुकेशनल डेवलपमेंट, इकोनॉमिक लिंकेजेस एंड सो ऑन. इकोनॉमिक लिंकेजेस मीन्स opening up of a bank account is a kind of economic linkages. When a person is linked to any economically functioning entity, ठीक है, then you become then that will be called economic linkage, creation of an economic linkage. Okay, counseling, basic documentation, the very important and the most fundamental difficulty for in framing some scheme for people who are like on the streets who are begging is the lack of documentation. ठीक है, because they are not into the mainstream. You cannot figure out how many people are there, and if a scheme is designed, so how is the scheme going to reach those people who are on the streets, who are living on the roads, because there is no documentation to verify. ठीक है, and there are several implementation challenges at the ground level. Okay, it is estimated that an approximate 60,000 people are going to benefit from it, but in the very starting we saw that there are around 4,17,000 ठीक है beggars on the streets of India. But this scheme is going to benefit at least 60,000 people for the start. ठीक है, but what we want to understand is कि it is a scheme from central government, although the purview or the prerogative of implementing a scheme for the benefit of people engaged in begging lies with the state governments. Okay, so this can act as a lighthouse to the other states as to how they should form their schemes and how should they implement it. ठीक है, so of course the central government is not going to address all the issues around it, or it is not going to address all the target population, but still it is going to act as a model kind of thing so that the states will be inspired or the states will be motivated to take actions in this regard. Okay.